Well, we have our two teams that have made it to Ascension, M80 and TSM. But of course, we have to find out who's going to be going home with a bigger chunk of money, where the seedings are going to end up being, and who has the glory of being the grand champion of this whole damn thing. Cannot wait to get started with today. Welcome to VALORANT Challengers North America, presented by Blacklight. I'm Sierra, and kicking it off on the desk, I have none other than Vansili and Wyatt. Vance, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. I have a big smile. I'm hanging out with you guys. I feel kind of short versus everybody else. I should have checked that.
I look kind of short today.
You know what? I'll leave it like that. I'm going to be short king today.
5'10" versus 6 foot.
Yeah, exactly. I feel very red too. What the hell's going on with my camera today? All good though. All good. That's why we're here for Tech Chicks.
You're just getting all the bad stuff out of the way to like right off the get-go.
Exactly.
That's good because it's only going to be a good day today, Wyatt. We have the grand finals going on. It's going to be a hell of a time.
Yep, just looking at Van's tomato complexion over there. Looking crazy.
Yeah, dude.
He does not look like that in real life.
Yeah.
Now this is I'll
be hanging out at the beach.
Bracket, and you're telling me TSM, they're in the finals? You're telling me they got knocked to the lower bracket in round 1 by M80 and then beat Oxygen, beat Moist Shopify, qualified for Ascension, and they're here?
Huh? What a run that's been, right? Exactly.
Right.
Beating Oxygen, beating Moist Shopify when even before we started the season, when we're looking at who's going to be potentially the top 2 going into Ascension, it was the conversation of M80, MXS, Oxygen, or even Dark Zero. And somehow there were some teams that just popped off at the right moment, and you see how TSM has made it now to the grand finals and also are going to the Ascension playoffs.
I mean, looking a little bit deeper into these two teams, as stated before, these are the two teams that will be making their way to Ascension to try to play their way up into VCT Americas. Teams that we've gotten to follow 2 splits long at this point. And for TSM, this is a story of kind of coming together. And for M80, it's kind of just this redemption arc story. Though when we're looking at the matchup for today, I feel like that redemption arc has to go in the way of TSM because these two teams did meet in those upper quarterfinals. And it wasn't M80 that kicked TSM down to that lower bracket in the first place. I mean, fans, when we're looking back at that match too, M80, they did a really good job. It did go to overtime on their map pick of Icebox there, but very strong Lotus to be kicking off the series.
And that's the thing. And when you're looking at the scoreline of this and how it panned out, M80 versus TSM on that first map of Lotus was actually a compositional change that I think came out from TSM on top of that and also from M80, because I'm thinking also from when they faced off against each other from the mid-season cup. So I like that there's been, a little bit of an elaboration for both of these teams in terms of how they wanted to approach the map of Lotus and find a good groove. And it definitely looks like M80 has found something with this triple sentinel setup that they've been gimmicking throughout the playoffs here and doing quite well on it. And I wouldn't be surprised that if this goes into a Lotus game again, that we might see a different type of TSM look and feel so that they finally hopefully get something out of M80 at this point on this map.
Yeah, it's definitely important to note that with Lotus in specific, it was TSM who first encountered this M80 comp. And since that game, M80 have continued to pick into Lotus when it's been available, and that's resulted in a couple more showings of this comp and an opportunity for TSM to have a better understanding of it, not just because they played on it, but because they can watch other teams go up against M80 on it. And last time when M80 played it against MXS actually found some pretty good ways to counter it on attack. So we'll see if TSM can adopt that here and maybe, get a little upset win on M80's home pick.
Hey, I mean, even if they're able to figure out that triple senti a little bit better, M80 is still a beast of a team to be going up against. M80 was a team last year, of course, was in high conversations, and this year they have been doing really, really well. A little struggle here and there, but the later half of things, they've really, really found their groove again, and taking down some of these other top teams that we've really been talking about here in Challengers. I mean, MXS and Oxygen were 2 other teams that we considered amongst the best here, and hey, Vance, I mean, these wins one after another, M80, they look like they're ready for Ascension. They're ready to finish what they started last year.
Yeah, and then this is just like the match history of the playoffs, right? So they got that 2-0 versus TSM, but even overall, when you're looking at the history between these two teams, these two organizations, they met against each other 5 times so far, and every single time it has been an M80 win. So TSM still has to figure out ways that they could take the number here and get a victory against M80. But so far, it's whatever M80 is coming out with, whatever in terms of composition or shooting or whatever, even if TSM seems to be finding some sort of form, M80 finds a way to always be on top of it.
Yeah, for these two teams, sort of a similarity in how they've both really hit their stride during playoffs, but a contrast in how they've done that. M80 bring in Net at the beginning of stage 2, replacing Nitro, their IGL who departed, and they've just been slowly getting better and better as the stage has gone on, starting, you know, with an early loss to Blinn, an upset win for the collegiate side, and then all the way till now where they're just dominating the other top challengers team. Versus TSM, who have just suddenly become a top team in the playoffs, like just exploded to a totally different level of play.
I mean, I feel like those two journeys are so interesting, and I want to reflect on that as we pull this tweet up from Xander, talking a little bit about the journey that M80 has gone on, talking about this long journey, this tough road for us, and looking to close it out this time. Again, M80, they were so close, Wyatt, to being able to be this team that maybe we could have seen in VCT Americas this year, and just falling a little bit short. And honestly, with how they've been playing lately, I feel like they can close it out this time.
Yeah, definitely. They're trying to follow the path that the Guard laid out by staying together as a team for the initial Challenger season last year. The Guard players, they had opportunities to go their separate ways, join different partnership teams. They stuck together. Same case for M80 this year. Players had offers. No, they stuck together, that core. They bring in BCJ, they bring in Net, and they make it all the way back to Ascension again to right that wrong from last year. And they're looking like they have more than a legit shot at doing it. They are playing fantastic.
Although the story slightly changes well, though, for M80 when, you know, you have an offer you can't refuse for John Cutie with an opportunity to IGL for Sentinels. And that really started to you have M80 search for the right pieces to fit into this vision that M80 has all together with the main core that you currently have built around here, Koala Nu, Nismo, and Xander. And Xander also has to pick up the IGL role on top of that. So I do understand the pain points coming through from M80 and what Xander was talking about in the first place. And the tough road that was ahead was trying to adapt into all of that while you're playing such an important stage 1 and stage 2 to try to make it into a partnership for next year. So I do respect, and oddly enough, I'm going to do a shout out to Nismo about the, you know, flipping the bird to those that always doubted them in the first place. And I totally get that, that he's able to express that. And I respect that as well, because he is able now with M80 to prove everybody wrong that, you know, they have what it takes. They just need a little bit of time, and they found the right moment there at the mid stage 2.
Yeah, and for the long journey that M80 have been on for TSM, I'm kind of looking back at this and considering they weren't necessarily in the conversation to be maybe one of those teams making it to Ascension, I feel like this last leg has been a sprint for them. But as soon as they left the line, they just went off running, and they haven't necessarily slowed down since. Looking back at the last couple of matches that they've had, they were knocked down to the lower bracket from M80, and then all of a sudden from there, that was a TSM, Wyatt, that really started to come alive, and really just time after time. I think the 2-0 victory over Oxygen was the biggest. Oh, hell no. Like, wait a second here. Like, TSM, they came out to play.
Yeah, they're a team of a lot of experienced players who've been hanging around just sort of below the top level in NA for a while. They came together this year, and really the entire season, I don't think they had a whole lot of synergy together. They were beating the teams below them in the standings, but until the playoffs, had never beat any of the big 3 teams. They never beat Oxygen, they never beat MXS, they never beat M80. And then suddenly now everything has really come together for these guys individually. They are all on point. GMD and Seven are mega consistent for this team, the foundation of it. And the way Sim has been playing with the entries right now, he's always been an incredibly aggressive duelist, very feaster famine, but it has been 24/7 feasting, a bountiful harvest in the playoffs.
And that's exactly it. And you're seeing this highlight reel of TSM really lighting up the stage for the last matches that they played in this lower bracket run. And overall, I do agree with Wyatt. When TSM first started and they were picked up and they were announced here as a roster, I definitely coined them as being a team that has potential, but never like maybe a gatekeeper of the teams that are under the top 4 that we talked about earlier. And nobody can really surpass TSM with the exception of maybe Fluffy Aimers on top of that, but they should be able to beat everybody else. And then somehow here, going into these playoffs, not only have they found form individually, but they're finding form where they're able to play off each other a little bit more that allows these moments to turn around here for TSM to get these winning moments. But to be honest, I'll be quite frank though, it's not necessarily the cleanest VALORANT that we're currently seeing from TSM. It's not the best team-based style that I'm seeing from TSM so far. But hey, if you're pulling up the frags and you're able to pull and hoist your teammates over the finish line by getting these highlight reels, why the hell not, right? I'll go with that as well.
I mean, I had the opportunity to talk to a proto yesterday after their win, after making it to Ascension, and talk a little bit more about kind of this journey TSM has been on. So there was a lot to this, but there was 2 specific points I wanted to talk about. Specifically to that TSM, that this is a roster that could do really well, which I think is something that we've echoed a lot, that there is a lot of really talented players on the board here, but we haven't necessarily seen them click in comparison to the other top teams that we've had here in the league. And then also talking about how we've seen the improvements coming along for this last little stretch here, Vans, that they had a lot to be working on that maybe the other teams didn't quite have to go through, but things are starting to click now.
Yeah, and to continue to that point, to what I was saying, where I like where TSM's improvement has been is not only on individual form, but also in these moments where they thrive under the chaos. And that's what we were mentioning in the broadcast yesterday when we had a chance to cast TSM beat MXS. So they look good that when it comes down to teams having to fight under like, oh, we're going to triple swing, we're just going to brawl in these moments, they're able to pull out on top because they do have good individual skill. But when it comes down to these moments where, you know, the action slowed down, it goes down to a 2 versus 2. There's miscomms that still happen and mispositioning that their opponents take advantage of, and they always get shot from the side, or they're not really there for that second trade to make sure that they have the cleanest round from the start to the finish.
I mean, he'd also said that sometimes they were peaks, sometimes there's still a couple things to be working on, but I'm excited to see ahead of this series how they're going to be facing up against this M80 that took them down before. And to get this series underway, of course, we have our map picks and bans. Curious where we're going to be going with this, considering this look that we've seen coming out on Lotus from M80 as of late. TSM new favorite Abyss instant ban. All right, we will see Lotus. Wyatt, it will be Sunset first.
Bind getting removed from M80 as well in the initial 2 bans, which makes a lot of sense. That's been a go-to map for TSM where they have the deadlock, been looking good. They continue to pick into Sunset after they had beaten Oxygen on it, feeling confident there. Sim has put up a sick performance every time they go to that on the Neon, though I think overall their play is still pretty chaotic there. And then we head to Lotus. M80 have the triple Sentinel, and that'll be an opportunity for TSM to figure out what went wrong against it the first time when they got knocked to the lower bracket due to M80's win on Lotus.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the Oxygen or the MXS game, but I think it's the MXS where like Vic like TPs all the way back. Like they had to set play off the overtime, off great conditioning that came through, and then they just really took down TSM on like a really nice pinch. So overall, when it comes down to some sort of macro approach, TSM's very aggressive on how they want to attack their defensive side. But if they realize that there's nobody there on their first line of attack, then they're kind of like scrambling, trying to figure out how they could work the map right after. And that's where teams are able to maybe play a little bit more passively, figure out where the attack is coming from and take advantage of that. Lotus is going to be a very interesting one, though, because like I said, this is the first time that they saw the triple Sentinel come out here for M80. They played, I think it was a Breach Neon going into that one as well. And the comp in itself is supposed to render something very explosive for TSM in the first place. But if they actually do want to find ways to beat M80 when they play like a Fade Raze in the past as well, they have opportunities to have great utility to stop with this slow scaling that M80 has been doing.
I have to say, I do think this map pool has ended up being pretty solid for M80.
Yep.
I know you're seeing the 3-3 wins and losses for them on Sunset, TSM's pick, but their last 2 games were both wins, and those last 2 wins were both after switching Kowalanub to playing Yoru on the map. So recently, they've been finding a lot more success there. Obviously, Lotus has been great for them, and obviously, Icebox has been very dominant for them and a struggle for TSM. So overall, I think M80 got the better end of the map pick ban process.
I mean, when you're looking at just the straight numbers here, specifically when you get to Icebox, like, yeah, it looks kind of stark, but reminder too, when these two teams did face in those upper quarter finals, this was an overtime victory by M80. TSM almost took it off of them. So despite how maybe the numbers are like astonishing, like M80, like, yeah, this is their map, considering that TSM have only been kind of glowing up the last little bit, Vance, and how close that Icebox was last time, I'm super hoping we get the decider in this series to settle it once and for all.
I mean, that's the first time when you started seeing the form come back as well for players like Seven, where, you know, they're like the silent killer coming through, but they really started popping off throughout the lower brackets. And also you saw the highlight reels that he was pulling out in yesterday's game versus MXS. So that already in itself shows that they're able to fight into this open style like Icebox. There's really minimal ways to approach that map. So when it comes down to Seven and Sim being able to find the right positions to play against M8 at this point, I think they could do pretty good. But I also want to talk about the contrast between these two teams again, where M80, why you just mentioned, they came out with a Euro a little bit more. They're being a little bit more, I like to say again, for lack of a better word, gimmicky in their compositions and how they want to approach, but I think they also add a lot of value into their team play, and that has been the strong suit for M80 going into the playoffs so far, where you don't really need Koala Noob to go in different positions and try to pop off and get these one and dones. It's more like, hey, how can we support around all of that, and then just net his finding his form at the same time too. So overall, I think that M80 in terms of team play, if they approach it well, I think it should be an easy 2-0 against TSM.
I am glad to get a map where Koala Noob is going to play Yoru, though, for M80, which is going to be Sunset, the first one. Because, interestingly enough, Koala Noob's Yoru has been by far, and backed by the stats, his best agent as of the last couple months of play, way beyond both the Jet and the Raze, which is pretty interesting because Koala Noob, you associate him as a Jet op player, but it's been the Yoru that's been the standout. I mean, of all the games, he's still sitting at over 1 kills per round, 1.02 on Yoru, which is just sick. So having him on that agent for at least one map, which is TSM's pick, maybe that will be enough for M80.
I think the fun thing about it for M80 and seeing Koala Noob flex a little bit more outside of a Jet is because of M80 wanting to use maybe a little bit more of the deadlock. And to have deadlock for stalls and how to do the executes and work as a team. They're really good at death bowling at that point. But now that you're pulling out a deadlock in your composition, and sometimes, most often, going double sentinels because you can't go deadlock alone in most cases, you kind of need that extra flash that the KO or the Sky or the Breach cannot bring anymore. So you're going to need Koala Noob to play that Yoru to support the team to move in the way that he needs to as a group so they can go for these post-plant executes. So again, it's just on M80. It's not just on Koala Noob's individual form as to why he's able to, or why he's going into these changes. It's not like, oh, he can't play anything else but a Jet, or he just likes to play a Jet. It's just because M80 as a whole needs that to work as a unit so that Koala Noob could play this Yoru and help out the rest of the team.
Before we dive a little bit deeper into this very first map of Sunset, I do have to, you guys are like, I'm like, I don't want to stop listening to all this. This is such great analysis for the first map. But I do have something else exciting that I do need to be talking about real quick here. We have a sponsor to thank, Blacklight, as well. We are ramping up the awesomeness for the finals day to day. You can enter Blacklight in chat for a chance to win the Blacklight Athena chair. Super comfortable, super stylish, and of course, Blacklight, they understand the importance of high quality equipment, desk chairs to get peak performance, and you can be comfortable. You can find that out yourself, win a cool chair, really make sure your final stay is absolutely top notch. So great stuff. Thank you so much, Blacklight. Who was
What?
that?
That was
Who was that?
Vance.
What?
Vance?
What are you talking about?
Vance?
I'm right here, Doug.
All right. Vance is like, how dare you interrupt my analysis? I want to go back to talking about this series. All
No,
right,
we're talking about Blacklight.
I get it.
We're giving away free chairs. I'm down.
Yeah, bro. If you had the Blacklight Vans, we wouldn't have lost those 2 OT comebacks in ranked last night. I'll tell you that. We would have gotten the win. Oh, you had it?
I lost in style and comfort.
At least you lost in style and comfort. That's all right.
That's
well,
how I
then
coped after our losses.
That's my bad then. That's my bad.
At least you can lose in style and comfort. Take a little nap on the desk here. Look at Vance over there. He's absolutely just vibing, living his best life. Vance, you got to wake up. We got to talk Sunset here, all right?
Let's do it.
All right, Sunset, first map. We talked a lot about it already. I mean, at this point, the competition, we haven't necessarily seen too much when we're looking at the agent comps of swapping up, though. You know, sometimes teams are surprising us a little bit, but expectations heading to agent select.
I don't think there's going to be any changes coming out from M80 for sure. And I don't think there's going to be any changes coming out from TSM either. I think just on what Y was mentioning before and how Sim has been really good and comfortable playing this Neon, and they seem to have found some sort of groove. And even though they won so many first kills versus first death against Oxygen and still only won in overtime and lost yesterday against MXS, I think that they're still comfortable in playing that composition and finding where their strengths are. So you want to take advantage of those strengths and just try to do those tweaks of where those weaknesses were to try to figure out like those set plays that they play against them. How can they fix that?
All right, well, for realsy this time, we have that Zippo agent select. Head on over to that. And Wyatt, would love your thoughts too heading on into this, though you'll get to have your thoughts with agents popping up on the screen.
Yeah, it is going to be exactly what we've seen from the teams prior, which is to be expected. One crucial thing that I'm going to be looking at in this game is TSM, when they're on attack, how they fight early on A. Both of the last two teams we saw go up against them on Sunset were getting destroyed when they were playing close A on defense, trying to fight for elbow. Now with M80, Koala Noob could fight in those areas of the map and teleport off, try and bait out some of that attacker util, and then maybe refight into elbow with the breach, with a Yoru flash, etc. They need to be able to play better around that area of the map than the other teams did, or else CSM could run away with the attack half another time on this map.
All right, well, first map here of the finals. Let's see who can be starting off on the right foot. If TSM can get that revenge, or if it's going to be M80 clean sweep once again. Time to head on over to our casters, Uber and Shift.
Thank you very much, Desk. Well filled, if I may say, and a great prelude to a game with a decent amount on the line, right? $10,000 is what's up for grabs here. And of course, that seeding going into Ascension, which might be relevant if you're looking at the field as some of the teams from LATAM and Brazil, respectively, and you want to get off to a good start in Monterrey.
And I think the other thing about this for TSM is try to find a way to finally beat M80. I mean, it's been over 2 years, essentially, that they've played each other in some form. Obviously, this roster is pretty new, but still, it's been pretty much a conversation heavily decided by M80 winning out almost every single time with comfort. So for TSM, it's been a bit of a run for them. This would definitely ice the cake in terms of them being the best team out of North America coming to Ascension.
And we're going to get to see TSM on the attacking side first. So a lot of that Breach and Neon game plan is going to be on display for us. And we're talking about a team who's been one of the best at pistols in challenges thus far. So keep an eye out on that. TSM always seem to have a decent gimmick to kick these rounds off. Of course, M80 heavily favored here, but TSM have absolutely been on a run. And that is not irony, folks. They've been sick. Let's see how this pistol plays out.
And it's one of those things, too, like when you put multiple games back to back to back to back, you're fighting for your life the whole way through. Sometimes you can crumble in those situations. Others, it kind of enlightens you to, oh, this is actually what we're doing really well. You don't have to worry about second guessing yourself over the course of a week of prepping for your next match. You just trust the process. So seems to be a little bit of that going on right now for TSM as they're going to hold very quietly over towards this front side of A main. A little bit of focus here for Koala, but he gate crashes back to safety, and TSM will just continue to linger and wait for their approach over towards either mid or try to find their early options to A.
That gate crash was about to expire, and it would have put Koala Noob in a pretty isolated position. We are going to see TSM start to make the way up, so it's unclear how much info Koala Noob was able to garner about their movements through mid, but as a unit, TSM are going to move up and maybe consider inserting a proto over towards market, which is not being actively checked. It's Koala Noob know that takes contact and Sim's head goes rolling.
And that's all you have to do if you're Koala Noob. Hold the angle, find a way to get the first share, but the focus is still in. Xander responds, though the defense is holding nicely as the spike goes down.
Yeah, nice little dizzy hit there over towards Poise, but eventually he goes down after a trade. Two defenders up here now, and M80 find themselves away from the site, trying to get into Boba. That smoke is going to make it a tough ask. They'll look to group up here with a flash to play off of through market.
And that's all they have, though. Nismo just has this flash. Everything else is going to be down to who hits their pistol shots better. Keep in mind, there is a small health advantage. GMD did get tagged in that last process. But the thing is, TSM are still waiting to see what comes around the back. And as Nismo gets the first down, she's down to a Proto. Whoa! 6-second shot, and Proto will finish off the pistol with a double.
I would rather see this player carry a pistol every single gun round. It is absolutely absurd. A Proto with a huge showing there in that round to stop M80 in their tracks as they attempt to retake. They're very elaborate pistol round for TSM, but again, they keep that very strong pistol record going.
I love it, though. I think it's just their idea of let's not show anything. We know for a fact that M80 isn't going to play super proactively. They don't have the ability to gate crash us. And, I mean, not to say the words of the ability, but to barrier break us and trap us as much as other teams would playing things like a Raze. So let's just kind of hold our ground here, see if we can catch out M80 early, and then make our move. And now with rifles, they're going to get a little bit more proactive. It's going to force the hand of Nismo, whose shoulder has been seen. Relay bolt is in, and Sim is looking to go aggressively. Timing is not there, though, and M80 will go 1-for-1.
Okay, aftershock though could have been an issue, but Koala Noob is able to find one here. Nismo trying to fall back to each other inside elbow. Allows them to take 2 kills, but they are unrecoverable weapons. And M80 have to make their way into the site, ambling up as Gimon flicks one onto net. That's going to be up to Xander here with very little to work with.
I like the idea from Net. There really wasn't a world where he lives and survives long enough to allow Xander to come help, so why not try to find a timing and maybe go 1-for-1, give Xander a bit more of a chance with, okay, on the corner once again, finds himself an angle. That paranoia would have landed, but wants to go to the guard cover first. That will still hit. A chance to isolate, and here we go. Proto from behind. Too quick, too fast. TSM take the round, but it does come at a cost.
Yeah, it puts a bit of pressure on this bonus here for TSM now. They'd obviously love to string a few together, but giving up 4 weapons in that round means that this looks a little bit, I don't know, less flush for cash. And maybe again, like, I think a focus for them is going to be how the gate crash gets used, because Koala Noob is trying to fall back off mid to the A site when he can. Maybe throws one into spawn here. It is unclear, but I want to see how M80 on a gun round want to play around that fast pop here around the neon on the A side.
Yeah, and defensively speaking, for TSM, even though they maybe play more of a rotation-heavy composition, their win rate has not been any better than anyone else playing a different sort of composition. So there are questions that need to be answered for M80 overall. Maybe not so much here in this round, as the first opening duel is won over towards elbow. Doesn't dissuade TSM from still stacking the box. Proto still lurking, could be an issue as well with the Sheriff if someone does peek him.
A lot of info here for BCJ though. He's sitting in that smoke there over towards A main. And can play a bit of a wide off angle here. The crossfire is pretty impressive. Koala Noob takes a slightly more aggressive stance, and Poise is going to be in trouble. Caught there, jump peeking maybe to look over towards Link. And that's allowed BCJ to fall back. This is much better from M80. Setting up a brilliant crossfire with only 2 players on this A side.
Yeah, and the thing that you're going to keep your eye on is how Nismo plays around mid. He's going to be the one to really kind of keep an eye on. Whether he's playing backside A, he can still, of course, hit the fault line through either the elbow position or, more importantly, right down A main. He could also possibly use that to block anything over towards the backside entrance towards mid. He has always been kind of the guy that I keep an eye on for this defense for M80 on maps that look like this, just due to the fact that his utility placement is usually always so good. So keep an eye to see what he wants to do, because in that last round, you're right, BCJ just kind of works his way through the smoke and has a free angle, but Nismo was there the whole way to help him if there was contact up through A main. So that's something that, even though, yes, it was a limited buy for TSM, is going to be a staple of this M80 defense.
And again, Koala Noob gets this free early lurk at the start of the round because of that gate crash. It's the post from mid-east. He's a gun barrel, and Sim's not quick enough. Absolutely flattened. Looks like Poise was attempting to send a fault line up to top mid. They were not ready for the Yoru.
Oh, that was actually from Nismo again. So that's what I'm talking about. From that back position, he can still throw that all the way in towards mid and hit that backside of tiles if there seems to be much of an issue. So yeah, Koala Noob once again able to hit for free. Proto looking for a different angle from B main, trying to lurk, not going to work out, and now TSM are left with this mid play.
He just walked up there, a Proto. Straight into that. There's a flashpoint on the corner. They time this beautifully. Gimon is going to be in trouble. Gets the trade, but that's all he's going to walk away with. Poise did eventually end up using that fault line, and they're going to have to make a play here through spawn. They got a good timing. Nismo's not ready for this at all, and that A side is open.
Yeah, that was definitely a prediction for M80, thinking that they must have rewrapped, and they're sitting front A, not deep through mid, all the way behind A. So this provides a bit of an issue here. TSM in a 2v3, but the Dimensional Rift is ready to go for Koala Noob, and that has to be the tool they use to try to clear out these angles in sight.
Remember last time we saw TSM here, 8 attack-sided rounds.
Yeah.
Poise is beautifully inserted. It's going to be a trade of bets, though, and that does leave 7 on his own. Dizzy in hand, still to play off of. Even that molly, and knows there's some presence here over towards Link. It's just the side that he's unclear on. Oh, lovely swing. Makes it a 1v1. And this is as good a time as any to send that Thrash out. That gives him the info he needs. He knows the Yoru's playing close to sight.
Still has a Dizzy and a Vosh to play with too. He can just delay this the whole way through. Koala Noob on, gets it to halfway. Surely we checked this, right? Surely we checked this, right? No way! He must have thought the Dizzy could have peeked over the top and seen the spike, but that wasn't the case. It was still blocked by the container.
It's not really parted for him from that position. That's half the issue. 7 there with a great round. Young Anthony Kiedis turning up the heat, but isn't actually in a position to interrupt any defuse, and Koala Noob nerves the steel, goes for the stick.
Wow. I mean, Nerves of Steel says it lightly, honestly, Mitch. I mean, that's bold to say the least. And the fact of the matter was the Thrash, he thought, okay, cool, that's your first tool to try to delay. You've got a Mosh behind you. You still have the Dizzy to check. And I honestly think that for TSM, Seven's thinking that my Dizzy will shoot out some goo if he's on. So that doesn't really work out. And a lesson learned the wrong way as we get to a 2-2 tie, but there's an operator in play here for Koala Noob, and look at the mid focus for M80 this time. All the utility over towards B will be what they're using to kind of ring the alarm bells if there is a hit.
Yeah, the condition for the 3-player tiles push that we've seen a couple of rounds here from TSM. Bit of a variation, though, from the attackers this time around. They're going to have this site for free. Gate Crash can come out, and Koala Noob can be in position, but he's not set up in advance to take contact with that op. He'll still find Sim, who ranges a little too far forward on that site.
Yeah, that was just all based on the cyber cage, either forcing the hand to go deep or go back, so the angle still gets one, and now you've got the ability for BCJ to clear out a lot of space. The retake is on.
The connection there off the Thrash. He's going to make it harder for TSM to operate in this post plant. Xander only gives it a tap. TP from Omen to the backside there. I think that was just for information, and now here comes the Rolling Thunder. That was a clone that was being fired at there, and that catches TSM out. A Proto getting flash fired, in fact, and this post plant starting to fall to pieces. One Stinger, 2 rifles to work with, and by God, they've been working. But Xander steps in, then finds a couple, met with the spray down. I don't think there's enough time though for M80. That's going to have to give up the Ghost.
Yeah, that's really well done by TSM. I mean, you hit it perfectly. The fact of the matter was it wasn't a perfect buy situation, but even though you get caught in the first blood, the Rolling Thunder just creates so much space. And then after that, there's no retake tools really available for M80 to get deep in towards B main outside of throw a smoke, try to dive through it. And the Stingers sing a song that close up in action. So really well done by TSM, knowing what they had available, knowing how they could best set themselves up for win condition, even facing a 4v5. Time was an issue, but really good trigger discipline from Poise on when to hit that Rolling Thunder, and he still comes away with a couple, helps TSM get right back in this game, and M80 are just on a hero rifle going into round 6.
And this has made M80 think twice about leaving B so lightly held. This time, Cypher Util is set up there. Fault line does catch on to M80, and they slowly pull back into market.
And if you're TSM, you have to be aware that there could be some sort of a heavy stack with something weird going on. So you have to really cover your bases. Vault line paranoia, plus the relay bolt for Sim. Dives beyond Net, though, doesn't see him. And Net's going to find the first. Koala Noob helps out. It's a 2-for-1.
Nice little spray there. That was from the back of that site. This is supposed to be basically a thrifty. And Kimon's the last one standing. The 1v3 does have that advantageous post-plant position, but it'll be double, triple swung, you name it. An M80, that is a rare thing to see. TSM getting thrifted in that fashion.
And it is a meeting of the minds. I mean, all 10 players in the map essentially all formed right in front of market or towards B main. But simply put, that's just down to the fact that Sim slides past Net. If you get that first kill and you control that dark cover, there's really no other way that M80 can get back out of sight besides hitting through the backside at B pillar, where if you're TSM, you have rifles ready to go. So a huge misstep, and it's just an unfortunate set of timing as Sim just slides his way right past Net, and the trades just look too good. Free rifles are picked up, and at that point, TSM just can't put themselves in position, and we can just kind of go back and forth between buying and saving between both of these two squads, although don't rule out the Sheriffs of TSM. Xander playing an off angle here. If he gets caught, that'll be a weapon picked up.
M80 are so heavily playing around a B push here from TSM. Normally that Omen is just sitting at the A site throwing the one-way down on that standard corner. This time though, he actually deploys one towards B. That should give a lot of info, honestly, to TSM that the Omen is on this site right now.
Yeah, and for Xander, this is about contact. Throw your paranoia, get deep in the site, and wait for your team to rotate over. So that's what his angle's all about right now. He's not looking to do anything besides get a read, get some early contact. If it turns into a headshot, great. If not, no big deal. Koala Noob does check Proto over towards the front side at A. We'll keep the defense a little bit more standard over towards the A site, and it also forces the dark cover, and now TSM are making their play. This is all about what Xander finds, and he gets the first.
Good fault line. This is going to be dangerous. TP out. Nice job by Net, though. He picks that angle straight back up in case there's an overextension to chase the Omen. Now that dark cover is going to buy that time. This will allow for a rotation from Nismo, and also presence at top mid here for BCJ. A Proto wants to be inserted, and he's unsure about the presence in market for the defenders.
Yeah, there's still spy cam watching it as well, so even worse news here in terms of the timing for Proto. Who, okay, there's the spy cam gone, so maybe there's a chance to sneak in, but Net over the front finds the first, and then Nismo is watching very avidly over that marketplace. So really nowhere to go here for TSM but forward, and that doesn't look very good. cleanup from Xander is perfect and will be a blacklight flawless.
The timing beautiful there for M80. That smoke from Xander comes out and it just cuts off Poise. He's just stood on the wrong side of it. Sim isn't ready to push through alongside of him. And so that is a free kill going over to M80. Good conversion there on the anti-eco for M80. See that early contact taken by Xander, and Nismo's rotate was timely. Beautiful little smoke there to cut the side off.
And that's just a lot of trust. You know, we talk about M80, where their strengths are. Their whole setup in that round, they know they're going up against likely pistols, maybe a couple SMGs or something of the nature, but Xander knows that he can just play this angle and do what he does. Find contact, and even if it doesn't go well, he can teleport away from a possible fault line, he can teleport away from a possible flash, and then he's also got the paranoia to delay, where Net can just step out from the other angle and make sure he can safely get behind cover, and we can keep those two members defensively safe on site. So really good stuff for M80, kind of knowing what their setup looks like, and just kind of comparing it to when we've seen them play this in the past. I just love the idea of them stacking BCJ and Nismo together, where they can look for information first and then throw out something like a fault line or a flash to peek it safely. That's maybe some of the things that had really gone wrong for M80 in the past, was especially against Raze players, getting caught by the quick burst because they're not finding the information ahead of time. So really like that adjustment, and I think just beyond what the duality looks like between Nismo and BCJ, it definitely looks like Xander and Net have really locked in what they want to do as well, especially when they're together on this B site.
Okay, now the Omen's back at 8, so we should see that one-way here.
Yeah.
And a pretty standard play off of it. A breach now in the more prescribed location. Obviously in a position to fault line towards tiles, or maybe set a koala move up for something. Here's that fast play. This is the standard hit here from TSM. Relay bolts do hit, but it's a TP away from Xander, and he's looking to slow things down on that side.
Now, second Rolling Thunder, though, for Poise. That will be used nicely to, again, give some extra space. Koala Noob looking to step in. He's got the gate crash to get back if he needs to, but it's a quick plant, and I love this change of tempo for TSM.
Timing there, beautiful for a proto. Koala Noob turns his attention towards the side at the wrong time. Kim on here, trying to get into spawn. Trying to shut down a post-plant attempt. Oh, the Rolling Thunder's going to catch him, though. Poise trying to make something of this with a flashpoint of his own. It's all going to be down to a proto now, the 1v3. And Net obviously makes sure they know where he's coming from.
I love the idea, though, for TSM of just not just getting a quick hit over towards A, but even stepping a bit further past the A site, knowing that there was a Rolling Thunder at the ready. Maybe you can catch Nismo ahead of time, but the problem was, as soon as that peak starts to come through, Poised unfortunately mistimes his flash, thinking maybe he catches someone on that long peak backside of A. Doesn't really work out for him, so it's just these small windows of timings that don't quite work out for TSM. You get booped out from behind cover, your flash doesn't hit, and M80 take the 3v3 retake, now putting TSM in round 9 on just SMGs, a Bulldog, 2 Sheriffs. They do have a Thrash, so there may be an opportunity to follow up quickly behind this. There is an opportunity here if they can find an opening pick to, again, still go quickly, maybe get some rifle upgrades if they can find control.
They get well ahead of the one-way here, too. There's some serious pace on this push. It is TSM trying to get value out of these stingers and otherwise short-range weapons. BCJ, for a second, considers challenging it. This has drawn the ultimate out from Xander. Big rotations pulled by TSM. And now they cut noise and get into mid. There's a cam watching it, though.
Xander doesn't stick to that from the shadows, though. There must have been enough confidence from M80 saying, nope, we're good. We've got the angle still held, and now you've got M80 still watching the cross back through mid. Good rotation. Koala Noob allows Xander to stay safely into market, and TSM may have missed their window on that first push.
They've got to rely on the insertion now of Sim here in elbow. The problem is that this position doesn't do much for them. There's still a trip in the way. Cybercage waited to be deployed as well to break the side up. BCJ, though, does eat that dizzy, so... Yeah. And there it is, Net, playing off the trip, if I'm not mistaken. Easy kill for him. BCJ looking just to spray a little bit now as he knows he's about to be accosted. The reload timing's awkward, and Gimon picks him up.
Yeah, there's still going to be a plan here. The thing about this is the numbers aren't good, so it's just a little bit of financial security moving forward. The decoy comes out, Quality now knows he's under threat. And, well, that's just good bait and switch timing right there from M80. Yeah, decent attempt for TSM. I would have loved, and obviously we can see the minimap, we can see how things are going. Would have loved to have seen them commit to that early play that they had, because they did break the timing of the one-way, like you mentioned. Plus, they had 2 members stuck on site. But I think a lot of it is Xander does channel that from the shadows, and that pauses TSM, knowing that, whoa, wait a second, if the Omen is here, we're going to be in trouble staying away from his paranoia, from his ability to kind of break off the site by the dark covers. So we have to wait to see if he commits to that, see if we can pull the rotation back. But the problem was Quality was watching it the entire time with the operator. So M80's defense looking really solid here, and this feels like kind of a must-win situation for TSM if they want to try to find a way to get closer to their usual average.
And the problem is that at some point TSM just have to roll the dice and contact mid. That is the antithesis of course to that operator setup, or rather vice versa. So Koala Noob could have been top mid, could have been obviously watching towards market and punishes them big time.
Well.
Now again, take this early contact because you don't see util used to get you into B lobby normally. Oh, he knows.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, they're pretty much doing exactly what you said here, Mitch. They throw down a couple of smokes. They even get the spy cam up just to check to see if the operator's in place. But now we got Quality once again controlling market. The Thrash puts them off the angle. But honestly, for M80, their defense is in a perfect spot to read this. The two players deep on site are good. Plus, you still got Koala Noob watching the mid-cut. TSM can find no entry anywhere.
They're so scared of the op that they actually use both their smokes in mid their ship. That means that getting out from top mid and splitting a site, they don't have any control utility left. So it's just Koala Noob rotates back and says, well, you boys are contacting now because you've used all your smokes. It's an easy free kill for me again.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. And I think for TSM, I'm a bit surprised that offensively, we've seen the effect of Neon getting some aggression over towards A elbow, but we haven't really seen the fast lane up, vault lane down over towards B that we often kind of saw early into this meta composition, if you want to call it meta composition. So I'm curious to see why TSM really haven't committed, and maybe some of that is the influence of how Xander can peek for free. Things like trap wires, spy cams, that could also be placed deeper in towards site. That makes it a little bit more difficult to pull off. There's so many options here for M80 that TSM just don't have the same liberty that you would go to expect.
Koala Noob just pushed that smoke with an op. He just pushed the top mid smoke. He does not care. TSM didn't try and take space behind it though, but that's still real estate Koala Noob gets to take up. So here it is. It's going to be the fault line, fast lane combination coming out, and TSM have gotten themselves onto the site here. The weaponry though is a little bit dodgy, I'm not going to lie. Net eventually gets brought down, but it's so much util for a retake. And M80 want to play ahead of it. They know they're stronger right now. They're feeling confident. And Koala Noob steps up with the op. It ends the round. 8-3. This is not a TSM attack side as we've come to expect them.
Not at all. And again, I like the idea of the fault line and fast lane, but they have to know that the problem is going to be getting through and scale deeper into the B side. I'm surprised they don't use that to block off B and then try to isolate market a little bit better. But again, it's one of those situations that with limited weaponry, you kind of have a situation of do or die, and they try to go deeper in towards site, maybe thinking that the op has been sitting in mid more often than not, so maybe we can avoid it by trying to scale someone off the back of the site like Net, but he just steps back. He's got a trap wire to keep him safe, and yeah, defensively speaking, this has been chef's kiss perfect for M80, and it doesn't stop as Quality continues to just rack up the kills.
And that's how you get an off player to take over the game. It's Koala Noob with a second. He's everywhere, man. This time able to fall back to Boba. Another gate crash deployed. And then again, the one hope to play off of the trip, and he gets two. Askimon, last man standing. Absolutely devastating showing here from M80. Who are even in a match with only seeding on the line and the half of the flawless and look absolutely imperious.
And I will say, 9-3 halves have been a little bit of a toxic comeback situation for a lot of these playoffs, but on Sunset, it's mostly you get 9 on offense. Then you get kind of re-raying back when you get to the defensive side, but flat out, as much as we could sit here and credit M80 for having a perfect setup, when Koala Noob is doing this, I mean, what do you say? I honestly have no idea how to break this down besides Koala Noob point, click good. Like,
he's disrespecting all of this controller util. Yeah. That's the thing. He's just pushing up mid, taking space that he otherwise wouldn't be in, and TSM are never ready for it because he is playing in a way that breaks, the conditioning of how you go about a default or an average round here. So TSM struggled on their defense in their previous game, with this Neon-based comp because there's so much premeditation required with this util setup. The pistol's going to be an important win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a must win. You drop this one, you're forced to buy, and you don't like doing that from the defensive side because the opportunity of actually gaining more cash after losing a pistol is pretty low. Sin tested. Okay, boys, they're at least able to help out, and now all of a sudden it looks like M80 might be a little bit stuck here. Flashes around on both sides, though, pauses the action for a moment, but M80, yes, they will get back in towards mid, and you've got, a 1v1 over towards the B side of the map. Proto good for the first.
Yeah, I mean, look, just picked a good time to come through that cyber case there. And he's the god with a pistol. He's just a god. It's just crazy that TSM haven't been able to leverage a Proto more over the course of that first half. Nicely done by Koala Noob. Now in a 1v4, even for this man, it's a little unlikely. TSM again win their second pistol of the map.
And this is good. You get all the kills. You only drop poise, so you're already building up a little bit of an earlier bank than you'd like. So this will be a very convincing purchase. And what you need here if you're TSM is to win this one out convincingly, have a really strong bonus, And if you win the bonus, then we're in business again. And you can start really putting something together in terms of trusting what your template is for this defensive side. Again, talking to the statistics, their defensive side has been poorer than their offense, but lately it's gotten a lot better with this composition. So we'll see if the lessons learned find a way to make themselves felt here early on in the second half.
Good read for TSM. They know there's going to be a firing squad up mid.
Spike down.
They have the better weapons in general. Again, they are dropped in unrecoverable locations, and you better believe that 7 is going to make sure of that. Well, 2 versus 3, and again, this is another example of M80 putting that extra pressure on the round 3 bonus of a half for TSM.
Sure.
A couple more weapons taken away, and they'll be laughing.
You got to think, though, Proto, outside of, being responsible for the B site, he's also thinking maybe I can get back over and collect one of those dropped SMGs or Bulldogs, maybe even the Guardian as well. Plant is
He's
on.
the Ghost player.
Yeah, there's the first. This should be the second. Or not. What? Xander just gets the one right click. So, again, punishing from M80 plus the plant, but TSM will still hold a couple of weapons.
Yeah, Proto the Ghost player in that round as well, so his demise ultimately doesn't really affect their economy, too negatively. And there you go, M80. Again, take TSM down to only a few guns, and you see the check there as well to buy a bit of time for 7 to scoop up one of the Bulldogs that were dropped top mid after both teams just stood and delivered like Civil War.
Yep. Old school battlegrounds. You line up on one side, we'll line up on the other. But here's the big one for TSM. What can you get done here?
This goes here.
I mean, the problem is your kill leader so far in this half has been a Proto, so like a neural theft is close, but you would have loved to have had something like a Thrash near the ballpark. And they are going to put a pretty good investment into this bonus. 2 Guardians will make it into the round. Stinger, Bulldog, Sheriff, definitely enough to fight with, but it's the light armor and the no armor for Poise that has me a bit concerned.
Definitely going to make them a little flimsier. Who M80 have for us here? But again, going to keep the top mid player honest, if there was one. TSM, how they're heavily grouped here over towards markets. Maybe to play off the trip, or at least to punish the players that come on through. There's a cyber cage set up there in middle note. Gimon's been able to get down here and basically clear this corner out. This is pretty big info-wise, but he's about to get some company. He might have heard it.
He'd be a little far to hear this at that distance, but a chance to at least keep himself up, and now I think he's got some sort of an idea. First shot, perfect. And he's also got information that more are nearby, so he smokes himself back towards safety, and there will be an opportunity to rotate in if you're Sim to assist on this cross.
Net inserted here, all the way over towards that B lobby. Another Gimon, man! Huge. Oh, it's 33 on a bonus round that resembles more of a thrifty, if I'm honest with you. He just keeps falling back after taking these shots, and M80 have not been able to overload him.
Absolutely massive play from GMD. And it all just comes down to the simple fact that he points and clicks pretty good too. Sim on the corner. He's going to learn to do a little bit of double stack on this check, but at least he knows where Nismo is. And that's going to be likely enough to say farewell to Sim with the aftershock thrown. And so now the defense can full commit over. It's only 18 seconds. This has to be some sort of an A hit from M80.
And that knows he's going to have to, find at least a 2K here over towards Link. Is there going to be a chance to find a spike? Nismo hoping to play off some of that util here again, but he's going to be overwhelmed, and TSM step up. Brilliant bonus conversion. That's the kind of round that gets you back in the game after a lackluster attack side.
But they don't really fully pick up all of the rifles around. But still, like you're absolutely right. It's 9-6 in what could have been a 10-5 at best maybe, outside of the fact that even that second pistol did get a little bit tight. So now all of a sudden, Sim is on the operator. That could be something that TSM, again, kind of like Koala Noob was doing, look to get aggressive with. They can find ways to open up space by controlling over by one way towards A. They can throw things like a Dizzy in the mid to allow Sim to have a free angle to work the middle of the map. There's a lot of opportunities here in terms of how you get this Neon activated with the operator. The only question will be, if you set up incorrectly, how do you retake when Sim needs to be part of that initial retake recovery option?
Cover going up.
Gimon here just playing anti-eco position, falling off of elbow instantly again. Eats the clone. Doesn't take any damage in reprisal though. Should be able to TP away for the most part. He's taken hardly anything for all of this, but have a post-plant situation set up for M80, and that was waiting for a Proto to swing up there towards mid. Again, inserted. APOF level lurking here from the Cypher player, but he's going to have to get to this A site sooner rather than later. It's about to get busy.
Oh, the shorty gets the job done. Xander drops. And now all of a sudden it's just down to BCJ and Nat, who are really just hoping that this dark cover works for the spray down. TSM are fully aware of it. And now it's on to Nat. Has to hit a couple of beautiful shots, but only gets the first. Would have been hard pressed to find that 2v5 in the first place anyway. So Good recovery from TSM. Bank account starting to get pretty massive for them. But now we're going to start to see M80 on a full purchase to see what they have to offer for their second real actual offensive look.
Gimon is so hard to catch right now. I think that's been supremely frustrating for M80. TSM are actually showcasing a great way to sort of play that passive A-hold that would work effectively against them and their Neon comp, which in fairness, M80 also were able to achieve on a number of occasions here, but always falling off, making sure he uses that TP if he's caught out by any of that stunned util and playing back towards spawn.
Yeah, it's going to be curious to see what M80 choose to do here coming off this timeout. If I'm not mistaken, they still have the Dimensional Drift, and I believe they have a Rolling Thunder, if I'm not wrong. So that has to be kind of the conversation of how are we going to break down these sites? And is this going to be using the Dimensional Drift to get past a possible one-way at A, and then you clear out elbow with it? Or do we say, forget about it, let that one-way exist over towards A? Maybe we just overwhelm the B site with a ton of utility, because they definitely have the opportunity to snowball their way deep into site with things like the Dimensional from Koala Noob. So that's going to be the interesting thing about this is, do we use it early as soon as the barriers drop to get us space towards A? Or are we using that as a way to get deep in towards B? I would figure it's probably a B hit, not just because we get off the timeout and they start to lean that way, but it just feels like the safer option towards establishing a good post plan.
It's been a hot start to this half for TSM, 4 rounds consecutively. After a bit of a beating they suffered at the hands of M80 here. It's like both sides are having a bit more success on that defense side, and we're going to get busy here. Some early contact with the operator here in towards B main. I like it. Dizzy sees nothing.
And the Dimensional Drift gets spent through mid, and that's enough to pull everyone back, and all the teams are in. Yep, so now you're going to get out of this. Proto is going to be right on the corner, but Koala Noob already in a place to fight this. Just comes down to how long can this TSM defense hold.
Xander gets up there as well behind the clone. Seven looking elsewhere. He's able to find 2, and now TSM are locked inside Boba. Gimon swings into 3 players to hope to have some form of impact, and it's Poised and Simu combined nicely, but it's not nearly enough. That Dimensional Drift laid their plans bare.
I love it. I love the fact that it's not just that M80 used the Dimensional Drift to get deep into B. It's the fact that they throw that Dizzy at B main, where they kind of have, I think, a suspicion that TSM's going to challenge this because they know what the play is going to be as well. They know it's going to be some sort of Dimensional Drift over towards B. Let's just make sure we may be able to get a 1-for-1 if they pop it through the middle. But instead, Dimensional Drift gets spent over through market side, scouts everything out, and that's enough for the decision for Quality to say, I can actually stay in sight. Xander holds the other side of the pillar, and it's absolutely perfect in terms of how you break that down. But TSM can still full afford the exact same setup, so this round's going to look a little bit different.
Yeah, Gimon has bought that operator for Sim here. He only had the reserve. Okay. At least Gimon's able to punish that there. Koala Noob stepped up, walked into that shot. Again, disrespecting that one-way pretty heavily.
How would you possibly have figured that Koala Noob is making that play?
That's what I'm saying. He's interrupting all of the conditioning.
He's just feeling it, man. That's literally all it is. But the trade is good. It opens up space to possibly keep a threat alive. But the thing is, GMD has just stepped up in the same spot. So they still hold good focus. Dizzy allows space for BCJ to get the Thrash available, and that will be spent here. Seven's just going to try to avoid it with the Cyber Cage. Oh, you absolute...
How do they not know?
How do they not know? No idea. They never saw him.
That is insane. Great use of that Cyber Cage there, but Sim's going to be able to find one. Net is felled. 2 versus 2 after Thrash had been deployed. And finally, Gimon gets involved here over towards that B lobby. Now Xander's position is shaky at best in this post plant.
But if he feels a threat, he's got the ability to teleport, maybe even use the hole from the Shadows ultimate if he wants to. But instead, going to play the contact. Rifle gets exchanged. Sim dives on in. Paranoia is still at the ready, but no peek. Xander just trying to hold the angle. Not going to work out. GMD too wise to it. We've got a 2-round game.
Yeah, it's getting close here. Economically speaking, it's been back and forth, but M80 can still go again. And they've been able to maintain that operator that Sim has been trying to get value out of early on in these rounds. Late backstab from Gimon there is pretty massive after punishing Koala Noob again for trying to play audaciously on the extremities. That's that trade here. Steps so wide out of that one way. And I love this timing from Seven. It is beautiful, but at best it seems like a one and done.
Absolutely the case. In, the Cyber Cage step through was the difference maker in my mind. That Thrash was meant to get, again, deep in towards the B site, but brilliant play off of it. Allows TSM to hold firmly on the site, and once again, M80 find themselves in a difficult financial strait here, and it's a quick play from Sim, trying to take the angle away. The one way is there, though. And Sim will have to respect that just a touch with GMD watching a bit longer on the cross.
So util traded. There's a chance here to play off Poised's fault line, but by that point, TSM would already have fallen back. Sim fancies another bite of the apple now. Walanoop has a sixth sense about it and catches him. This time able to gate crash away, and I don't know if Kimon realized he'd be walking into the entire marching band. He is failed now. We do have big ultimates for TSM, right? We can make value, rather use out of this thrash here, but we have 7 tucked away on the other side of the map.
Poise has to do it all. They're not going to be able to. So with the Rolling Thunder now available, Proto is stuck. Yeah, the full march of the marching band coming through, 78 trombones in the big parade.
I didn't think I'd be seeing the entire graduating class of the University of Illinois 2023 just looking at him. How much you can do about it.
But that's the power of Yoru, though, right? I mean, you get aggressive, and I think just like natural gamer intuition says, well, he's playing so far up, I shouldn't be able to get my boys trade, but Qualanoob's not there anymore. He just teleports back. It's just, yeah, it's sick gameplay, and that's another what is essentially a thrifty round for M80 with now full weapon upgrades to get to 11, Mitch. This is looking good for M80.
Yeah, 7 best can maintain this operator here, but TSM, or rather M80 have known that op has been at large here. Going to the next round. I mean, look, we're talking about this, what can be implied by Yoru. There's also the very powerful strat of like having Yoru and another teammate plus the clone making 3 people's worth of sound. Clone expires, Yoru gate crashes out, and all of a sudden you've implied more than half your team are in a location that is just a complete fake.
Oh, without question. Yeah, you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head here. And it's just one of those things like, for M80, they've got a lot of tools, but they're still kind of hitting with this full focus, proactive mindset of we're flooding utility on the map.
Right there.
And as much as TSM have been able to receive, at least evenly trade it, it's just stretching them so thin in the late rounds, especially on this second half to this point, where it becomes super difficult to hold on to the ground that they're trying to gain early. So utility battle's been a lot of it. This has been a big chess game. Nice flash from Qualanoop, but Sim too quick, able to get out and keep his life.
Yeah, odd position for Sim to take up there. That's the meticulousness of M80, allowing them to sniff that out properly. Sim was like he wasn't snuffed out. I think we might see a smoke to the right side top mid here, which will imply a split towards that B side. And with 7 going down, it's even easier to sell now. They're going to have to fight their way through it, but that Rolling Thunder, they're ahead of it. M80 once more played too far up, and I mean, Poise is not ready.
That's like, notch it. That's like the 4th time that small windows of timing have just gone the way of M80. So many small moments in this matchup because TSM really are putting together every response you would want to. I mean, the Rolling Thunder there is a great idea. It's just, like you said, a little bit too late. Someone sneaks through it, and now a Proto can do nothing but save this operator as a chance to hopefully bounce 4 rounds back in a row to avoid losing your own map to start things off.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Sisterhood of the Traveling Operator haven't found a round win in the last 2 or 3. It's been very, very hard to leverage that weapon appropriately. There's a lot of heavy smoke presence in mid there for M80. If that hadn't worked out, if TSM had maybe played off that, M80 would have struggled to actually hit a sight behind that controller util. But look at the minimap. Most of the fighting happens at top mid. Look at those 2 free kills because Poise is not quite able to anticipate their pace.
And that is exactly it. I mean, you're doing my job for me right now, Mitch. They're legitimately just outpacing TSM, which is never something that feels really good. I mean, it also needs to be said, like, Sim is just having a hard time in this matchup at the moment, whereas he was a huge linchpin for success for how TSM had done, especially from the offensive side, but it just took him so long to get anything cooking, largely because Qualanoop, like you had also mentioned, was just disrespecting the control utility. And when someone's hitting like that, it makes like life extremely difficult for the Neon, who is meant to do that, is to break timings and really punish passive utility. So it's just all those things kind of combined into one real result that you look at and say it's only a round differential of 4, considering we're making it sounding like M80's running away with this game. Like, TSM is still putting together the responses you want. It's just those little timings keep going the way of M80, and sometimes, you know, the game just ends up rewarding you on your day, and that seems to be the way it is right now for M80.
Well, I think that's the frustrating part of any duelist trying to get value on the defense side, is that you cannot be proactive in some situations like this, especially if the map is taken away from you via that controller util. You can't find your timing.
Sure.
You can't do anything really unless you wait for them to push up through that smoke or past that smoke, or you just run through the smoke with some util and try and like be proactive on defense. But when you don't have the mechanism to gain information about like mid, for example, in that round, no one's going to push that smoke. They're going to run in there. The only time I've seen do it on occasion is Crew in Americas, where mid-round they try and catch rotations through that part of the map, but they do it en masse. They do it with this sort of harebrained confidence that you can really only find, at that level or at the bottom of a cereal box. So keep an eye out for that here. I think TSM struggling here to set a pace of their own.
This goes here.
Top seeds, and now it's do or die. And you got an op, a thrash, which is not bad, and then a couple of mid weapons at best, outside of the one vandal that has light armor with it. So it's enough to be in fighting condition, but something has to go your way here, because on the other side, Dimensional Drift is ready again. BCJ also has the thrash, so there are multiple tools that they can use to get deep in towards this B site, which is likely where this hit's about to come.
Pop in a smoke now. Again, can TSM afford to let the game come to them again? Couple plays here will be making a brief probe into mid, but all they want to do is maybe imply the possibility they've moved up. They have to know that there's going to be a Cypher Cam in market, so it's going to be very hard to, imply anything about that part of the map being taken over, but you might be seeing some A action here, and Koala Noob will go forth to check it out.
It's almost as if M80 are trying to, float around with these hits to see if they can maybe even pull out the thrash early. It's not going to happen. TSM are going to use this thrash as a retake tool, which is the right move. Koala Noob will get to work clearing out the site, and there's going to be firing range right here, right down mid, trying to slow things up, but the fault line is good, and Koala Noob will stick after the Dimensional Drift to at least go 1-for-1 and make a mess of that defense, but you still have thrash at the ready. It will connect onto Xander, and that's going to be enough for Sim to push up, but M80 receive it, and now it's just down to a Proto.
That is beautiful. Even if M80 couldn't sell anything about the B side because the trips were there for a Proto, they hit A so damn hard. The timing out of the Dimensional Drift was perfect. And now Proto is in deep trouble. Again, you saw a moment there, right? Sim trying to be proactive, but the detained player was being watched by a teammate. And M80 there, look, by the end of the map, really, really dominant. That is a 13-8 in a Challengers final. This team are, they are primed and ready to roll.
And it's that round right there just classifies everything that we've been talking about throughout this map, saying things like, oh, small timing, small windows aren't going the way of TSM. That's the pinnacle of it right there. You've got everything starting to stack up. You're trying to be proactive by triple stacking the corner to team shoot down, stop that hit, and essentially make the Euro useless, but the fault line connects onto everything. There's a flash behind it, and then Koala Noob just makes a mess of everything. It's just one of those things, man. M80 could do no wrong.
Absolutely. Great start here in this series for M80. TSM recently picking that map, this time getting shut down. Stick around, folks. Of course, more to come in this best of 3. We're going to go to a break, and then we're going to break down the action of Sunset.
Probably one of the plays I did. It was during the open qualifiers against Thinking Men. It was like a 1v4 clutch, and just to go to map 3 to wall.
Oof, I think it's actually recent. I was playing against Together We're Terrific, who's now Fluffy Aimers, and we were on an eco round on Breeze, and I bought a Sheriff, and I just aced them. And it's just like a really important round to me overall, like just confidence-wise, like just being able to just, do that in front of everybody. So that's probably like my best moment so far.
Mine, it'd have to be DRX versus FPX when Stacks ran out Heaven and jumped off Balk and killed 2 to take the lead in overtime. That was my favorite moment.
I'll just pick one of my own. I had like a ace with knives against Oxygen in the off season. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that was it. Like, just pretty cool.
I think my favorite play is probably in Challengers last year when Governor had the ninja defuse. I forgot who it was against, but he literally just stuck the bomb with like 4 alive. I think it was against DSG. It was insane.
Favorite play? I think
Tens has done, and I've also done. It's like on Icebox. It's like backside A, and you jump up rafters, and you like kill a guy with like, I did it with like a frenzy somehow. Like magically got like a one tap on the Yay in the game before. So yeah, that was an awesome experience.
I mean, I don't think it was really that sick, but there was one game, we had a seeding match against TSM when I was on FaZe, and I think it was like a 3v1, and I'm on Astra on Split, and they had like a Viper ult down on B, and I was on rafters, and I just like stunned the person planning, spammed him, and then just like won the 1v2. That was like probably one of my favorite plays that I can remember off the top of my head.
My favorite VCT play is definitely the Marved ace on the rope on Fracture. I can't remember the team he was playing against, but that was like pretty funny when it happened. And then another one that comes to mind is the Sadak 1v4 against NRG on Fracture. Last year's grand finals in franchising.
My favorite Valorant clip would probably be the clip of Chronicle on Elbow on Bind. I can't remember who he was playing against. I think it was at some sort of Champions or Master event. I can't remember which, but I just remember he's playing solo on Elbow and he got an ace.
The King satcheling with bomb into A Haven. That whole round was insane to watch live. Yeah, that's probably my favorite.
The game starts long before the game starts. And warm hands are faster hands. Gain the upper hand and power up your pregame warm-up with Zippo hand warmers.